What's going on, you guys? You guys have stumbled, man, somehow on a Thursday morning onto the watch list with Jayar Jackson. How you guys doing? It's a special show today. You guys know why? I'm gonna jump right into it. I mean, I'm not gonna lollygag with all the back and forth. It's a special day on the watch list. The main reason for that is because Ben Gleib has joined me for the first time. It's an inaugural appearance there for the big guy. Ben is a comedian. He's the host of Idiot Test on Game Show Network. He's also a Rebel HQ contributor. You should also know this: his second stand-up special, Ben Gleib, the Mad King. It just dropped on YouTube. He's a funny guy. He's a smart guy. He stays up too late. He thinks too deeply into political types of disagreements and arguments. That's why he's here. What's going on, Ben?
All is good. Thank you for having me. That was a very good intro, very thorough intro. I feel like I can't top that own intro. So lower your expectations.
That's what you guys should know. I've been hunting for Ben to get on the show for months now, and after we finally appeared on an Old School together, we're both like, this has to happen. That was great. Wasn't that a good little hour and a half, 2 hours we did?
It really was. That was a blast. Yeah, we were vibing with our mutual confusion and disdain for all things happening in the world.
It was a deep conversation. You guys should go check that out when you can. I'm not even sure what it is. Watch all the Old Schools and eventually you'll see the one where we showed up. There's a lot going on today. Lots in the political world. We were just talking about how the show was a little bit more light yesterday. So as you show up today, Ben, let's go ahead and make this heavy.
Perfect.
Again,
I have not been working out for a long time, so heavy is my specialty right now.
Sometimes eventually you have to just snap the body back into shape. It's gonna happen sooner or later. Let's start with Mike Pence and his latest thoughts about the former administration.
Former Vice President Mike Pence says he would consider testifying in front of the January 6th committee if he were asked.
If there was an invitation to participate, I would consider it, but you've heard me mention the Constitution a few times this morning. On the Constitution, we have 3 co-equal branches of government. And any invitation to be directed to me, I would have to reflect on the unique role that I was serving in as Vice President. It'd be unprecedented in history for a Vice President to be summoned to testify on Capitol Hill. But as I said, I don't want to prejudge.
Jesus, okay, just spit it out, bro. Mike Pence speaking there along the possibilities of testifying or speaking to the January 6th committee, considering he was one of those targets for death that particular day. He didn't stop there talking about January 6th though, because some people's eyebrows were raised by that possibility. But he went on to talk about the FBI and that search warrant that was just conducted on Donald Trump's home last week. What did he have to say about that?
And in the wake of the 4 years that we endured with the politicization of the FBI, the American people have a right to know the basis for this. This unprecedented action does demand unprecedented transparency. These attacks on the FBI must stop. Calls to defund the FBI are just as wrong as calls to defund the police.
As you can imagine, Mike Pence playing both sides of the fence there. First of all, there's these defunding of the FBI talk is nonsense. It's crazy. It's just like saying defund the police. I see where he's going there. But also at the same time, this unprecedented search warrant requires unprecedented transparency. I'm seeing some unprecedented transparency, number one, which maybe we don't necessarily need for the sake of them demonizing this entire process, but we know that's the reasons why they want to do it. If there's an unprecedented action that's happened, why can't they carry it out? So if there's a record-breaking bank robbery when 35 people run up and rob a bank together, that's unprecedented possibly. Does that mean those 35 bank robbers should have unprecedented access to the process in which they're investigating this and arresting people and putting them in prison? It's unprecedented. So that means we have to do things completely differently. How about that unprecedented president potentially breaking all these laws? How about that guy? How about that unprecedented part? Let's move on now, because all this talk that he's doing, as people could assess, there was some criticism for it, of course, and the Department of Justice lack of transparency. Let's go more about what he was talking about there. He says this unprecedented action does demand unprecedented transparency, while he's also defending these rank and file agents. I just want to remind my fellow Republicans, we can hold the AG accountable for the decision he made without attacking rank and file law enforcement personnel at the FBI. Well, the folks that you have that are listening to you don't really have much of a separation between rank and file folks and who they should be mad at the top, which maybe they should just sit back and watch. Continue on. Pence said he would call on Attorney General Merrick Garland to release a full accounting of the reasons behind the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago last week, during which federal agents, of course, recovered several boxes of classified and top secret materials. He says this unprecedented action does demand unprecedented transparency, as you then saw there as he was going through. Tucker Carlson also wasn't very happy with him, Ben. This is probably the best part of this whole thing. He doesn't like specifically talking about maybe the January 6th stuff, or maybe these calls to not go after FBI when you have no idea what's happening. Let's listen to Tucker Carlson. Do we have that?
First, your reaction to Mike Pence. Does he kind of risk falling into that very predictable media narrative about criticizing the FBI, or everyone who works at the FBI beyond reproach here? What's going on?
What is Mike Pence doing in New Hampshire? I mean, if Mike Pence doesn't have a summer house in New Hampshire, then he's delusional. I mean, Mike Pence is a very nice guy, or seems like a nice guy, but he spent 4 years getting bossed around by Donald Trump like a concubine. He was bossed around by his donors when he was governor of Indiana. He's not in a position to lead anything. I think he probably has useful years left in him, and I think he has probably something to add, perhaps. He probably has grandchildren, too. But the idea that he's going to run for president is like delusional, and it's clearly only benefiting his consultants, and he should fire anyone who's telling him to go to New Hampshire and run for president and give dumb speeches about the FBI when he has no idea what he's talking about.
He has no idea what he's talking about, Ben. It seems like the sticking point when it comes from Bannon to the My Pillow head guy to then Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham, and all these folks is they're trying to keep President Trump from running. I even saw it was a quick thing on there was someone on Fox News was saying, even if in prison he can still run. Like, this is the only thought process that they have when it comes to it. So Mike Pence trying to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out isn't working, because they're going to find that 1 foot out as a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things with this story that frustrate me beyond belief, starting with maybe the only positive. The first time I've agreed with Tucker Carlson's statements in my life is him saying that Pence was bossed around like a concubine for 4 years by Donald Trump, and that is a fact.
100%.
And that is why, a big part of why he does not have any chance to run, but also the fact that this man hedges his bets with every sentence he says as the world's most boring stick in the mud. Saying spit it out is right. This guy literally, every sentence. He made news by saying he would consider testifying in front of the Jan 6 committee, and hedged immediately back 4 different steps. He's like, if I were asked, I would consider, but I'd have to put it through the calculus of the fact that I also had dual responsibilities, both as the president of the Senate and as the vice president. So I would consider during duly. Why is everybody sleeping? Everybody fell asleep. I mean, the guy is bonkers, and still, even here's where he's got no spine. Even when considering running against Trump, a man who during this last 10 days has the greatest wide open window. I mean, talk about a gap you could run right into the end zone with. And finally choose any of 5 things in this last week to turn on this guy and say, listen, our law enforcement, our nuclear secrets, those are more important to this country than this one man's ego. And he's finally gone a step too far. I was okay with him wanting me to be hung. Bygones can be bygones, but not our own security for all of you. Instead, he's more angry about the raid on Mar-a-Lago than he is still about Jan 6 or saying anything negative publicly about Trump. That's no political instincts right there.
The thing is, they're able to say negative things about Trump. Look at all these guys who ran for president in 2016 before he took the primary nomination. They hated him. He's a disaster. He's going to destroy the Republican Party. He's the worst thing that ever came across. He's not a politician. He's a Democrat. They went through all of it.
He's unhinged. He's crazy. He's an insane person, unfit for office. They said all that, and they're still Trump's best friends now, just because at the end they were like, my bad, I love him. I bow down to him.
I'm afraid is the bottom line. Let's move to this next story. Alex Jones. Maybe he's not afraid anymore. I don't know what to do with this. Let's start.
Pig-headedly support him a few years ago, even though I disagreed with his warp speed, because I thought that we had to keep him in office because of the nightmare scenario if Hillary or Biden got in, back before they were officially running. But that said, I am supporting DeSantis. DeSantis is just gone from being awesome to being unbelievably good. And I don't just watch a man's actions, as Christ said, judge a tree by his fruits. I can also look in his eyes on HD video, and I see the real sincerity.
If it wasn't for his HD video, he may not have seen the sincerity in Ron DeSantis' eyes. So there's Alex Jones. He is flipped, while Mike Pence has 1 foot in and 1 foot out, along with Laura Ingraham. Alex Jones has 2 feet out. He is a Ron DeSantis guy. It's crazy, though. What's the reasons? Let's watch.
And I got a message for President Trump. You are the real president. You were reelected by a landslide. I have fought for you. 95% of what you've done has been incredible. You have amazing courage and energy, and I respect you. But if you continue to let this poison be pushed on our people and our children, I'm coming after you. I'm not risking my life and going through hell to sit here and then have it on my conscience, all these dead and dying children and others that are taking your stupid, evil, warp speed crap that you got fooled and roped into. And so I want everybody to call Mar-a-Lago, call their information line, call Trump's resorts. He'll get the word. Everybody I know that talks to Trump, in fact, I could probably get a hold of him. I'm going to get a hold of his ass and say, what are you doing?
Did you guys notice that? Alex Jones was rethinking whether or not he should say he's going to hold Trump's ass. He's like, I was going to say I'm going to get a hold of his, okay, fine, ass. I've had those moments before too. I was like, this might come off wrong. Should I continue to say ass? Anyways,
I don't mean that in a gay way. I mean, I'm going to hold his ass to account, not a naked ass.
He's also coming. He's coming for him, is what he wanted to point out. He's there. He's gonna come get him. I'm not sure how. Maybe now he can make a phone call to Trump. But the problem is vaccines. Vaccines, bro. Vaccines. That's the principle that you're gonna now oppose Donald Trump on in 2022, not 21. Not 20. You're gonna oppose him on COVID and vaccines. By the way, this could cause a major shift in the MAGA verse, by the way, because the first thing we were thinking when we heard this was, doesn't he have a best friend who's totally on board with Donald Trump? Or that he's exchanged some messages with? Let's look at this headline if you guys forgot. Alex Jones sent a nude photo of his wife, this is the headline, to Roger Stone. This is what Sandy Hook lawyer did reveal there. They're that close. This is the same Roger Stone who appeared on InfoWars to try to grift, for some more money multiple times. He's done this on InfoWars and on his own, by the way, in the wake of this Sandy Hook trial. Alex Jones is a good and decent man, is what Stone said during his appearance. He's a God-fearing Christian. And right now he needs our support. So they're all on board. They're really good friends. This same guy, since Alex Jones is talking about Ron DeSantis, Roger Stone has lots of things to say about Ron DeSantis too. Watch.
Ron DeSantis was an unknown congressman with a bad haircut, an ill-fitting suit, and an undistinguished record in Congress until President Donald Trump's endorsement lifted him to the Republican nomination for governor of Florida. And then, because Ron is such a boring and poor candidate, President Donald Trump, with the able assistance of Susie Wiles, had to visit Florida twice to drag Ron over the finish line to become governor of Florida. Now, Governor Ron DeSantis refuses to put his own presidential ambitions on hold until President Donald Trump has decided whether he wants to run again.
There are gonna be some serious fights between these two, between Roger Stone and Alex Jones about which loyalty to hold for Donald Trump. Maybe it's just again for show. Maybe Alex Jones is just trying to rile up some, ruffle some feathers. Who knows? But the one thing that I'm sure Ron DeSantis does not want to be is in the middle of this, Ben.
Yeah, that's probably true. Also, Roger Stone should stop criticizing people's look. A dude with the strangest look I've ever seen criticizing somebody else's haircut is new level bonkers. But that aside, it is so wild to see Alex Jones needing to make headlines and just grasping at straws by, first of all, you're a couple of years late, as you pointed out, on railing against the vaccine at this point. We're pretty much already vaxxed, those who are gonna consider it. And the only good thing Trump did is what is the reason you're now against him. The only positive contribution to society that Trump had some part of is a line too far. I prefer a candidate that's 100% conspiracy theory, racism, and bigotry. If you're gonna go ahead and do something positive, I will have people call your golf resort and make faulty tee times, and no one will show up. You'll show him.
That's all. That's the biggest thing that you can possibly do to someone. This is serious. I forgot one part that Alex Jones said off the top. He goes, Ron DeSantis went from unbelievably awesome to unbelievably like amazing or something. I think the only thing we have to deal with is he's unbelievably not under investigation. That's the reasons why these people are jumping ship. That's why Laura Ingraham took one foot out and said maybe we should turn the page. That's why suddenly Steve Doocy is on TV asking questions, follow-up questions, and it's like maybe Donald Trump, you shouldn't be inciting your people to go and attack FBI folks. This weird thing's happening that people are finally starting to read what could be going down, and everyone's trying to reshuffle and find their true place, whether or not Donald Trump's going to get them, or maybe investigators are going to get them.
That's true, but also barely. But also barely, Jr. They're turning on him, but at a pace that is so much slower, considering the loose nuclear secrets and the fact that the guy is still committing egregious crimes against the country. They're like, well, you've already gotten 14 warnings. If this gets to 17, we're going to consider strongly worded words against you. I mean, at every point, and even maybe Giuliani might be going down now with the Georgia 6 hours of testimony, which. My theory is that is why Laura Ingraham wears that cross exposed at all times during her broadcast, in case Giuliani shows up. If you're confronted with dollar store Dracula, just melt him away.
He definitely dresses up as Dracula at Halloween, 100%. All he does is put a sharp jacket on. We were talking about Ron DeSantis and the decision between Alex Jones to now suddenly support him. He has his own troubles down there in Florida. Let's watch.
In our country, there are protections for freedom and limits on power. Ron DeSantis may not like them. He may not respect them, but he does have to follow them. This morning, I filed a suit in federal court to challenge the blatant abuse of power by Governor DeSantis in suspending the state attorney.
Someone talking about Ron DeSantis's blatant misuse of power is nothing new. In this particular case, at least Andrew Warren is a Florida state attorney. He was ousted by Ron DeSantis for saying things about how he would carry on with his job. So he called this a politically motivated attack. Let's talk about why this even happened. On August 4th, Ron DeSantis suspended Tampa's elected prosecutor, Andrew Warren, for pledging not to use his office to go after people who seek and provide abortions, or on doctors that provide gender-affirming care to transgender people. You mean doctors that do their job and service towards their patients. He said he's not going to go after prosecuting them, so now Ron DeSantis is mad. He said this announcement proves that Warren is incompetent, but Warren's not backing down. He has more to say. Let's watch.
I'm a twice elected county prosecutor who spent my professional career locking up fraudsters and violent criminals. Without warning, I was forced out of my office by an armed deputy, removed from my elected position, and replaced with a Ron DeSantis accomplice. The governor's authority is not unlimited. He can disagree with my political views. He can disagree with my criminal justice philosophy. He can even disagree with my unwavering commitment to public safety, fairness, and justice. And he can do all those things because he's protected by the First Amendment. But the First Amendment doesn't just protect him, it protects everyone, even those of us he disagrees with.
I guess the battle lines are beginning to be drawn, because once you start suspending and eliminating folks because of what they said they're doing, as Andrew Warren is pointing out there, now we're just talking about First Amendment stuff, which I thought the Republican Party was definitely hell-bent on. Ron DeSantis had his own things to say for his First Amendment rights, but he wanted to describe what's going on with abortions and the reasons why he's ousting this particular guy, because he's thinking about the children. Let's watch his description of how he's talking here about this.
And then most recently, after the Dobbs decision was rendered by the US Supreme Court, he signed a letter saying he would not enforce any laws relating to protecting the right to life in the state of Florida. And mind you, we have had prohibition on third trimester abortions for a long time. We've had prohibitions on partial birth abortions for a long time. And then most recently, the legislature enacted and I signed protections for unborn babies at 3.5 months. And when they are aborted, it's typically done through a dismemberment procedure, which is really inhumane. Nevertheless, that is what the legislature has enacted, and it's not for him to put himself above that and say that he is not going to enforce the laws. And so today, we are suspending State Attorney Andrew Warren effective immediately.
Just completely cutting out an elected official here. Let's cheer that on. Let's go down a graphic for you guys, because Warren was still responding to how this was going on and how this could actually be in place in the unconstitutionality of many of these rulings, these laws, and these bills that they keep pushing. Warren argued that Florida's law that DeSantis signed banning abortions at 15 weeks of pregnancy is unconstitutional. He says, I can't enforce an unconstitutional law, and no case has come before me yet. This isn't about anything that I've done. This is about what I've said, as we pointed out multiple times. So it's a preemptive strike, if you would, about making sure that they come after these folks and anyone else they may think about carrying on the way that they would. This is a dictatorship, don't you know? It's Ron DeSantis wants you guys to know before he runs for president. What's your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting case because it definitely is showing early signs of DeSantis becoming more of an authoritarian leader even within his own state. And it is true that technically the governor does have the ability to take somebody out of office. I think the statute says if they are neglect of duty for drunkenness and things like that, and he's charging him with neglect of duty. But you're right, he has not yet done anything to warrant it. Warren hasn't warranted it just yet. The most egregious thing he did was sign on to some pledge that many prosecutors around the country have signed on to, saying that they will not prioritize on a case-by-case basis whether or not they will enforce certain abortion laws, which is exactly the way that prosecutors are supposed to handle it. Even DeSantis admitted that during his speech firing him. He said, look, he's allowed on a case-by-case basis to do it, but just not broadly. But like you also pointed out, he has not done anything yet. This is just theoretical. And if it were an appointed prosecutor, you'd see maybe more of an argument from DeSantis that he can then decide whether to remove him or not if he feels he's not following the laws, because no matter how terrible your laws are in your state, it is the job of maybe an appointed prosecutor to follow them, as one elected as well. But when you're elected by the people, elected twice in just one specific county, the whole purpose of smaller governments is supposed to be what Republicans believe in, is each smaller government and more local government is supposed to be more directly what the people want. Give them a chance to do that in that county and run it as they see fit. And if at that point it's falling out of favor with what the law is, you then take action. But the only thing I will support what DeSantis said in a more broad theoretical sense is just that this is a symptom of the greater problem. Yes, it's ridiculous to be taking out this elected official, but also letting them stay there almost masks the bigger problem. It's good to see DeSantis kind of getting out of control, because the bigger issue is the laws. The bigger issue is the laws that this state is passing. And so this gives us a chance to say and to see in the bright of day, oh, I see, okay, so he's taking people out that are just trying to defend human rights, that are just trying to say, even while this law is being debated, it's still being adjudicated, the law is being appealed. One judge already said it's unconstitutional. So he's just saying, let's let this play out. Until then, I'm not gonna prioritize it. So the bigger issue is electing governors that are gonna pass these draconian laws that take human rights away, and less so an individual prosecutor. And on that respect, it's like, yeah, you got a governor that's a real jerk that's gonna be taking people's rights away. That's your bigger issue. Of course, he's going to be taking people out of office that don't agree with him. So let the chips fall where they may, maybe elect a different governor.
We're seeing some of the numbers too, as far as the people who are in support of reproductive rights for folks to make a choice about their own lives. But who cares about that? It's Ron DeSantis.
People's opinion doesn't matter when you got a guy like DeSantis in there. He's strong. He's got jackets. He's got Trump-like hand movements. We've been supporting this for a long time. Once you got that down, the people's opinion really diminishes. Once you have a real strong man up there, forget the people. I've always said that, starting right now and only now.
You already forgot, Ben. Those are ill-fitting jackets that he's got on.
My mistake, you're right.
Jesus, man.
Take it off.
Make sure we keep it straight. Let's take our first break, though.
A straight jacket, you mean?
Yeah, that one too. Maybe the Dracula jackets too for Giuliani. When we come back to a few of y'all's thoughts, but we're also going to come back to there's threats now at children's hospitals. Children's hospitals now. It's gone from the FBI to children's hospitals. Let's just attack everybody who says and does anything that we hate. I think you can figure out who did that. We'll do that when we come back.
Our generation actually has a voice to say who we want.
For the first time ever, we are the biggest voting bloc in America.
One of the people we've been talking about for months and months will be the president of the United States for the next 4 years.
And for a lot of us, this is the first time that we're ever going to vote.
Do you have any idea how much of a difference 4 years makes?
The action that we take right now doesn't just affect us right now.
Discussion is important, but words aren't the only thing. You have to take action.
So that we can actually affect real change instead of just talking about it.
Get out there and take a part in making a difference.
Every voice really does matter, whether young or old, especially young people. Get out there and vote, damn it.
Now, more than ever, we can make a change.
I'm going to vote because I want this country to be different.
I don't want the older generation to decide our future.
I want to make this world a better place for my son. You can make change.
Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote Earl.
Vote in real life.
Vote IRL.
Can we eat in here?
Joe Crowley is congressman from New York. He's very powerful, arguably one of the top Democrats in the House. But there's someone finally challenging him, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The election is today. If she wins, David beats Goliath.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has defeated Joe Crowley.
You made that happen. You're David. You just beat Goliath tonight. 2018 is a warm-up act. Wait till you get a load of 2020.
What's going on, you guys? It's a spinny thing happening in my ears. I enjoy it though still. A couple of y'all's comments now. Ben Gleib, of course, is here with me on the show. Let's go over to Twitch. Love you guys on Twitch. Cody the Epilepsy Dragon says, JR and Ben, I loved your special. Counted down the minutes to watch it. Such a solid panel. I'm not sure if there's a panel on your show, if there's this panel that they're talking about.
I will do one if it gets the numbers up. So watch the Mad King and I'll go live on, I don't know, Facebook or something and take questions.
As soon as you're done, the Mad King is on YouTube. Check it out, you guys. Ludite11 says, DeSantis is doing to Trump what Tucker did to O'Reilly. Just bumping him out there. YouTube super chat, Mina the Singing Dragon says, hey, JR and Ben. Thank you, JR, for liking and singing. Oh, but she had a singing video on Twitter. I always like when new folks show up and they're watching the show. I was like, what are they about? I want to know what you guys are about. I do check out y'all's profiles. Little do you know. And when you do something fun, I let you know I synced it. Also, Christine Ifrat, YouTube super chat, thank you very much. Says, JR, love your show. If you and TYT get sick of being in the USA, come to Canada. Lots of room. Glad that Ben is on today too. I'm glad Ben is on today too, especially since we have so many stories to get through that only his type of approach is worth it. Let's do it more with this next story, the Children's Hospital.
Today on the Matt Walsh Show, children's hospitals around the country are butchering, mutilating, and sterilizing their young patients. So according to Boston Children's Hospital, literally every toddler who has ever been born or will ever be born is trans. Now, if it seems like they're casting the widest imaginable net in order to catch the most children they can and put them all on a path to sterilization and butchery before they can even talk, well, that's because that's exactly what these monsters are doing. And they've done it up until this moment without much resistance from the public. But that has to end. We have to stop making it so easy on them. And that's why I'm in the very early stages of trying to organize a national coordinated effort to fight back against this evil. You know, it's really just a matter of where do we begin? Maybe we begin at Boston Children's Hospital.
Oh, did you hear all that was said there? Matt Walsh says he's tired of these monsters that are coming for your kids that have basically said, based off of apps nothing, that people have actually said that they deem every child that's born transgender no matter what. And in fact, we're gonna come and mutilate and butcher up your children, and you're gonna be left there crying in the hallways. And in fact, no one has pushed back at all on these lies that he's telling, first of all, and done anything about it. We have to stop making it so easy on these people. So one thing you do when you're looking to kill is make sure you detach that person or whoever it is you're looking to kill from humanity so that you can do it a little bit easier. And that was a nice setup there by Matt Walsh to do so. CNN fact checked some of these allegations he had, just in case you guys were wondering if what he's saying is not a complete lie. They looked into it.
Boston Children's Hospital says its staff is being threatened and harassed now after far-right activists on social media posted misinformation, claiming they perform gender-affirming hysterectomy procedures on young girls. The hospital says it's not true. They do not perform those procedures for anyone under the age of 18. Boston Children's Hospital says it is proud, though, to be home to the first pediatric and adolescent transgender health program in the United States. The hospital, though, now is working with law enforcement to try to better protect its staff in the face of these lies.
That's a damn shame, because the public relations office of Boston Children's Hospital sent an email to employees with guidance on how to respond to harassment and threats earlier this week, citing a quote increase of threatening and aggressive phone calls and emails sent to the hospital commenting on treatment of transgender patients. The email was confirmed by NBC News by a current employee. So now they're getting these threatening voicemails, emails. Who knows? Maybe people might start showing up at the door, because not enough has been done, according to Matt Walsh, to do something about these monsters based off of my lie. This stuff started a few weeks ago because it wasn't just him. Boston Children's Hospital first became the target of activists in recent weeks when well-followed social media accounts such as Libs of TikTok, which has often promoted groomer discourse that falsely linked LGBTQ teachers and parents to pedophilia, began to make a variety of false claims. Of course they did. One allegation said that the hospital offered gender-affirming hysterectomies to children under 18 years old. Nevertheless, the post demonizing Boston Children's Hospital quickly spread through the far-right media ecosystem, promoted by right-wing media personalities, including, of course, Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire and conservative websites like the Post Millennial and the Daily Caller. So we've gotten to this point, Ben. Hospitals doing normally what they would do. Somebody decides to catch wind of it, and maybe they're bored, maybe they're looking for some clicks, but they decide to lie about it and say, you gotta come for these folks. Because you can't just say, I'm disturbed by what I've heard. Maybe we should look into it and determine if this is happening. Let's just say things and then say, go and attack. I think we've crossed the line of people saying, who knew it could have happened, to this is what we want to see happening. It's blatant and it's direct now.
Yeah, it is. And not that we're surprised anymore, but I still am surprised when I see this, because it's just more and more boldness that these alt-right figures go out and speak as though they've concluded some thorough investigation, some lengthy years-long investigation into practices that literally don't even exist in any respect, not even in random cases, not even once. The hospital does not perform any, never has performed procedures on people under 18 to switch their gender or change their genitals in any way. And to go on and confidently look into the camera and say, apparently they're saying every single baby born is a trans baby, and they're immediately putting them on a path towards flipping their gender. It's just not only 100% a lie, but it is so dangerous. It's so egregious. And you're just such a horrible monster of a human being to go on and endanger the lives and the reputations throughout the window of people that are just healthcare providers trying to make sure that people have an easier time in life, can be taken care of when they have medical needs, and throw them under the bus so that you can get more clicks on your video, on your show. You are the devil. You're a horrible, evil human being, and there is no excuse for it. And
You know
That's all
what?
you can say. It's just very sad.
And you know what? Let's go to graphic 5, you guys, because I'm glad you point out, because this is the pro-life party. This is what they're telling their minions to do. These far-right extremists are threatening to, quote, execute doctors at a children's hospital. This again is from the libs of TikTok pushing of this. I think maybe that was catching wind, and Matt Walsh said, I'd like to ride that train of lies. That works for me too.
When you are completely hypocritical, moralist human being, of course, everything you say ends up being exactly the opposite of what you proclaim to say, and their actions never match. The pro-life party suggesting executing doctors, the party that's all about freedom, suggesting that if your freedom doesn't match their freedom, your freedom should be taken away. And in every respect, at every turn, they just are complete hypocrites because they don't stand for anything other than trying to burn down the system. And that needs to stop. There needs to be a way found out to be able to restrict people that are just trying to burn down our country with their words.
Sad. It's their outlook on life is to destroy things. There's this next story of a politician out in South Carolina, and I think this is what woke looks like. It's contagious, and he just caught it.
I voted for the pain-capable bill, the fetal heartbeat bill, and fetal heartbeat has been for 6 weeks now. A 19-year-old girl appeared at the ER, and the fetus was unviable. The standard of care was to advise her that they could extract or she could go home. The attorneys told the doctors that because of the fetal heartbeat bill, because that 15-week-old had a heartbeat, the doctors could not extract. So their only choices were to admit the 19-year-old until that fetal heartbeat stopped. I asked, how long does it take to stop? She said, seconds, minutes, hours, maybe days. There's a 50% chance, greater than 50% chance that she's going to lose her uterus. There's a 10% chance that she will develop sepsis and herself die. What we do matters.
Representative Collins there down in South Carolina is discovering that there's reality behind these laws. And in fact, he's saying he can't even support this one that's gonna go further. Let's let him explain why he's not gonna support the next step.
That weighs on me. I voted for that bill. These are affecting people, and we're having a meeting about this. It took that whole week, I did not sleep. Followed up with the doctor a week later. She had heard nothing, did not know about the 19-year-old. Thank God I followed up 2 weeks later. She did return to the ER. They did extract the now non-beating fetus. 1 second, Mr. Chairman, I'm almost finished. Out of respect for the process, I'm not voting today. But I want it to be clear that myself and many others are not in a position to vote for this bill without significant changes to the bill.
Like I was saying, there's a lot of people railing about people being woke. And it's become a bad word. You know what woke is? It's being awake. It's being aware. And it's actually noticing that there's other humans. And in this moment, Neil Collins figured out that there's humans and they actually have pain and it could die and actually have the effects on them that you claim to care about. If she loses her uterus, she can't have any children later like you want her to. The 17 that you would like for her to have. How does that work out if you're gonna make sure that now she's been rid of that entire ability? Is that something you want? They don't think that far because what they're trying to do is just get back into office by coming up with these types of fights. Anyway, this is what this bill is banning that he's now against. The bill would forbid abortions after heartbeat is detected, usually around 15 weeks. There are provisions allowing abortions for the victims of incest or rape if the fetus is less than 20 weeks along to save the life of the mother. Doctors were talking to Collins about this entire process, again about the 19-year-old, and there was more gruesome things that they had to address or at least face when it came to her case. It was explained to him that doctors had two choices here: admit that woman as he's pointing to the hospital, or then it could take seconds to days and months for all this to happen, or have her go home and would discharge her to pass this fetus herself alone in a toilet, maybe at home, something like that, because that's not traumatic at all. he finally realized there are humans involved here. There's so many other aspects of this bill, and the next step they want to take, they want to go to a complete near abortion ban. All these things are built up, but the one thing that I think, Ben, here, the one mistake that was made from all these Republican politicians, at least these state trigger laws that happened, was when Roe finally got overturned, as many people were expecting. There's too many months for it to take hold. There was too many months for people to start seeing the real consequences, to see the real life effects of this over burdensome law, or at least this control they look to have over women. And of course, now we're seeing it and people going, wait, this is what happens? When you see it in real life versus what lying politicians tell you, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, that is so true. Basically, his speech breaks down to, turns out, and I've just been informed of this, women are not just a talking point. Women are human beings, and they have feelings and emotions and whole lives. I'm handed a piece of paper, whole lives that are affected by the laws that we pass. This is shocking to me. I always thought it was something we could just decide to manipulate people to get our own power increased and our own ability to make laws for others passed. But apparently this affects lives. I'm stunned by this. I mean, basically, it's amazing that this whole thing hinges on the heartbeat of a fetus, when this Republican lawmaker himself just finally detected his own heartbeat. Oh, he's finally got a heart. So he's at the end of the Wizard of Oz, and he finally met the wizard who granted his wish. And actually, we can't really help you out, but just look within yourself, and you might have that ability. And at least this guy came to his senses. At least this guy has feelings. This is one of the most human speeches I've seen from a Republican lawmaker. Sad that it had to come after a law that is making people's lives very difficult, is endangering adult human women's lives, but better late than never, I guess.
Because this is surprising only in that it's a Republican who feels something. Isn't that weird? We live in such a normal process of, these politicians don't feel anything. In fact, they make fun of you if someone says, yeah, this hurt me. I was crying over this person who I don't know, whose life was completely changed, if not ended, because of my decisions. And they're like, look at you, lib. Like the thought is, who cares? And if someone cares, you're unfit to be within this party. It's a crazy thing.
Snowflake, you've got feelings about the things that you're passing that are affecting lives. You're a snowflake, you're a wilty little, what's that? Oh, now it's my own daughter affected. Can we just make an exception to the law? Is that possible?
For them, not for me, bro. It's just how these things work. I want to squeeze in these next couple stories. We have a few minutes. Let's keep a few comments coming to Emilio, because I want to see what people are saying about this, because that woke conservative politician out there in South Carolina must be dealt with. I'm curious what you guys think. If you guys are buying it, actually, I don't know if once people actually figured out and switch, if people actually care, or if now he's too far gone, or forget it, you've already participated, because he did vote for the first bill that he's now sad about. Just saying. There was a gang shooting in Denver. You might be surprised at who the gang was that showed up. It's graphic footage, you guys, from outside of an evening out in Denver. Let's watch this.
So we have the girl who's on the other side of the alley who shot in the back.
I see. Okay.
This ambulance is going to take the girl with the leg and the guy with the arm.
Okay.
And then the ambulance that's right there.
Okay.
Is going to take the guy with the one in the back.
No, keep killing us.
It might be in that area or
for no reason.
On the right side of that white SUV, right here on the right side.
Police keep killing us.
Denver police were called to a fight that was happening outside of a bar or a club or something out in Denver. And they said, a fight? That means we get to get involved too. As you can see, multiple people were shot, injured, 7 in total. No one died, thankfully. But there was some newly released body cam footage that did point out and show that the folks who showed up for this fight were very, very happy to get to shooting. Let's watch this graphic video next again, so be warned about that. So as you can see, they show up. You can see the text at the bottom. There is a gentleman there who raises his hands. That's the person that they're targeting. He did have a gun. Tossed away immediately. There's no shots fired yet. That gun is damn near on the ground. There's the shot. He's been shot, by the way. And he shoots him again. You know why? Because he's not dead yet. And because once you're being shot and your body goes, I think I'd like to survive, he's still trying to walk away from multiple gunshots, maybe because this whole self-preservation thing that we've got inside of us. And it didn't stop there. From a second body cam image, cop shooting into the crowd. That's why 6 other people were hit in the arm and the leg and wherever else they were hit. Luckily, not enough to kill them. So, the videos for the first time show from start to finish the shooting, because there's more to this, you guys. Of course there is, which will be investigated by a grand jury. Denver police officials previously made public still images. They made public still images that they selected from the videos, but denied public records requests by the Denver Post and other news outlets to release the videos in their entirety. I think you're beginning to figure out why. 3 of the bystanders shot by police have called for accountability for the officers who were placed on paid administrative leave while their actions are investigated. These videos are yet another sickening example of Denver police officers exercising excessive lethal force without justification or concern for the safety of innocent bystanders. That's what the attorneys said on behalf of those 3 victims that were shot by that gang of police officers, by the way. They said it's a miracle that more bystanders were not injured and that nobody was killed. It's absolutely a miracle. I don't think they really cared, as again, they're shooting into a crowd. Because of that these new police accountability laws, Denver PD legally had to release the footage, even though they didn't want to. They want to release those images and go, look, that guy was the problem. And now we see that it wasn't. Let's look a little further now, because the department has not released the names of those officers either, of course, because they'd be worried about them maybe getting some kind of retaliation. But they have, however, taken a step for safety. Let's look at this headline here. Denver bans food trucks on the busiest streets because there was a food truck there. Maybe that's why the crowd was surrounding it. The move is intended to reduce crime in the area, and food truck operators are furious about it because they're trying to make some money. So it's everyone else's fault but theirs. These guys are on paid administrative leave. They actually didn't want to get that far, because if we'd have listened to the degree to which they showed us things, they would say, yeah, the police showed up, did the right thing, and other people were shot. Maybe not by us, who knows? There was a fight going on, so we had to start shooting. And number 3, Ben, before you jump in here, the target or the suspect that they saw there was carrying a gun. I'm still confused every time this happens. Are we supposed to have guns in a society, or are we not supposed to have guns in a society? Because every time we do have guns in a society and you're not the right kind of person in the right particular situation, you get shot to death. And if you're the right person, then you're the good guy with the gun. Which one is it? How can we tell?
Yeah, I hear that. And of course, the police here were insane for shooting into the crowd of innocent bystanders on the side. But I'm torn as to this particular case, the man with the gun who was shot, because I looked at another video that didn't slow it down, that showed it in real time. And the first, and I agree about shots 2 and 3 and 4 at the person as he was falling, but shot 1 actually took place just 1/6 of a second. 1/6 of a second after the guy pulled his gun out and threw it. And I'm curious your thought, Jayar, but in a country where we know that the police are much more inclined, incredibly tragically, to shoot at a person of color without thinking and often without probable cause, if you do have a gun on yourself, should you not put your hands down after being up and grab it and pull it out and throw it? That does not seem like the right move. It seems like you're just exponentially increasing the odds that you're gonna be shot. Maybe you keep your hands up and say, I've got a gun, it's in my waistband if you wanna grab it. Because
maybe you do. Philando Castile did that, he's dead. Again, that's a different case, different officer, so I understand that.
I'm just saying, as general advice, isn't it probably better to not grab that gun?
Probably,
because of how
and there's other part.
happy?
This is the thing we do have. We have this sympathy towards cops in the immediate dangerous situation that they're involved in. They had to act at a moment's notice. All that's true. What we forget all the time is this guy that had the gun had to act in a moment's notice. And there's 4 cops there with guns pointed at him, and he's like, it's that long to say, should I tell them? Should I get rid of it so that they don't find it on me and then shoot me in the back of my head while they had me on the ground? I don't know, I'm gonna throw it. At least they know it's not here. It's a 1 second decision. And for some reason, we have sympathy for the cops in their 1 second decision, which is always to just get to shooting. And his 1 second decision, which was to get rid of the gun. Part of his process wasn't, should I throw it away? Should I tell them? Or should I shoot them? Shooting them was not one of the options in his head. We could tell because he didn't try to, but it was definitely an option in their heads. And it's always the option in their heads. As soon as they're afraid, is it a cell phone? Is it a bottle? Is it a gun? It doesn't matter. We're shooting because we're afraid. What does he do when he's afraid? Just to address that one part of it. This is a very stressful situation for everyone, but for some reason, there's only one group that gets the benefit of the doubt.
True, and maybe the police should, they're wearing a vest. Maybe when somebody grabs, you do have the extra second to see, is the person limply holding the gun and trying to throw it away, or have they taken it and are moving it towards? Maybe at that point you feel
it's a scary situation. That's why I'm not a cop. And maybe they're trained, they're supposed to be calm in these situations. This guy's not trained. He can't be calm in a situation not knowing what's about to happen. I don't know if he started the fight, if he's whooping somebody's ass, or if he's the culprit, any of that stuff. So we'll get there. I want to get to this I could talk about this for another 10 minutes, Ben, and I think we should soon. Maybe we'll do a part 2. I did want to get this last story because this was actually one of my favorites. This guy, we're gonna switch gears. This is a pastor who's trying to be what we've seen a lot of pastors being. Let's go, let's start here.
See, that's how I know you still poor, broke, busted, and disgusted, because of how you've been honoring me. I'm not worth your McDonald's money. Come on, come on. I'm not worth your Red Lobster money. Oh, Jesus, come on. I ain't worth your St. John knit. Y'all can't afford it no how. I ain't worth y'all Louis Vuitton. Come on. I ain't worth your Prada. Come on. I'm not worth your Gucci. Come on, man. Come on. Come on. Come on. Mother, I'm saying this, and I promise you, Deacon, it's not with respect of want. I'm saying it because I want you to understand just what God is saying. I even found out that Movado, you can buy a Movado watch in Sam's. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And y'all know I asked for one last year. Here it is the whole way in August. I still ain't got it. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Let me kick down the door and talk to my cheap sons and daughters.
Cheap. Poor, broke, busted, and disgusted. These trifling ass congregation of this particular pastor just won't do right. They won't follow God's words and buy this man a Movado watch. Yes, this is about a Movado watch. His name is Carlton Funderburk, and he was disappointed in his flock because they haven't provided enough they haven't honored him. I'm sorry, they haven't honored him like they do with their McDonald's and their Red Lobster. Hey, you could go to Sam's Club. Sam's Club? Okay, fine. Maybe on a discount. He's willing to take the discount from his flock. Anyway, this video made the rounds, and he of course had to apologize in a much different tone. It's like a different person. Watch this.
I want to take this moment to address the now viral video clip of me from a sermon given. Though there is context behind the content of the clip, no context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words. I've spoken to those I am accountable to and have received their correction and instruction. The video clip does not reflect my heart or my sentiments toward God's people, yet that's not discernible in the clip. Therefore, I offer this sincere apology to you today. No context could erase the words I used. I apologize to all who have been hurt, angered, or in any way damaged by my words. I apologize to every preacher and pastor who must stand up under the controversy that I have caused.
Can you imagine if he had that tone when he was preaching and then switched it? You guys should buy me a Movado watch. Why is that suddenly? It's like a different person. By the way, a Movado watch, specifically at Sam's Club, this one particular thing says it could range from $395 to $3,295, but not at Sam's Club, I bet. Let's look at the graphic from Sam's Club. Oh, damn. You have to sign in to see the price. I went to the website yesterday, you guys, and I was like, I'm gonna see how much these watches are at Sam's Club, because hell, you could get them at Sam's Club. So if you go to Sam's Club, you have to sign in first to find out the price. Damn it, Funderburk, I can't even get you the watch now. So one more part about this, Ben, because I'm gonna let you, and I promise we don't have much time left. But as far as his background in his ministry, he's been in the ministry since he was 17. He founded the church with his wife, Pastor Silverana Funderburk. And the couple and their 3 children live on nearly $70,000 of annual income in Kansas City, where the median household income is $56,179. So the point of that is they make above the median household, but they can't get their own watch, or at least Carlton can't, or just chooses not to. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and that $70,000, not counting the gifts he's demanding from his flock. I always, in general, thought it was very telling that these preachers refer to their followers as a flock of sheep, basically. You're sheep, and you'll do whatever I tell you to do because you're mindless sheep. I want to watch. I've asked for it since last year. He's angry at how long it takes him to save up for this. I love that his preaching voice is the exact voice Arsenio Hall used as the corrupt preacher in Coming to America. He's like, yes, Soul Glow is in the house. And then
sorry, continue. I'm sorry. Go.
No. It's just also weird to me that he improvises when he is asking for stuff for free, but he has to read the prepared apology statement as well.
He doesn't. That doesn't come out as naturally as it demands. It's like a 10-year-old kid, a spoiled kid. Mom, last year for Christmas, I got the Casio. I wanted the Movado.
It's so wild. I mean, that's just straight criminal behavior. And how come he didn't wear the $1,000 suit and fancy jewelry and watch in his apology video that he does in all of his headshots? Because a preacher, of course, needs headshots and needs fancy glamour shots to be putting out there all the time in the world. It's like that preacher that got robbed last week or 2 weeks ago and was saying, well, the worst thing is they took $400,000 of jewelry from me. How about you shouldn't have $400,000 of jewelry in general, let alone on you whilst preaching the word of God? Basically, a criminal just robbed another criminal. The way I
think he buried the lead there and talking about the problem. They took all $1 million of the jewelry I had on while I was talking about how broke you guys are.
When one crime happens, how dare another criminal commit a double crime? That's almost like a double negative. Does it cancel me out? Stay tuned.
We're gonna find out as far as canceling. Anyways, I'm sorry, that does it for the show. Emily's telling me get the hell out of here. Thank you, Ben, for joining me. Let's make this a thing. How about that? We'll find the time. Also, check him out. You're gonna check out his Mad King over on YouTube. Check it out as soon as you can. Awesome show there. Thank you, Ben, for joining me. Thank you guys for being here as well. Up next is the Damage Report with Jessica Burbank. What a twist. Go check her out, see what she has to say. Good shows coming up. We'll see you guys tomorrow.